everybody, and welcome to Open Orbit. Today, we are joined with Sam Lippincott. Sam is actually the best human ever, apparently.
This is true.
And he wrote that down in his bio, so I had to say it. He was an astrophysics and creative technology and design double major at CU Boulder, right?
Correct.
All right. And now you're in your final semester of your grad program where you're pursuing a master's degree in aerospace. And Sam currently works at LASP as a mission ops lead for NASA's IXPE mission. He's working in mission operations for that mission. And he is a big science fiction nerd. And I'm excited to get this started with you because This is yet another topic I don't know a ton about. I haven't watched many sci-fi movies, so I've given you, Sam, the task of converting me to sci-fi movies and convincing me that I need to watch more.
I'll do my best. We'll see. Hopefully at the end of this, I'll have you addicted.
Today, we're going to be exploring how sci-fi inspires real science and scientists. And as I said, I've only seen a few sci-fi movies myself, so I'm excited to hear more from somebody that really knows more about sci-fi and has experienced more. It's not an uncommon thing in our major to find people with a passion for sci-fi.
This is true.
I kind of feel left out sometimes.
Well, then I'll ask you off the bat, what sci-fi movies have you seen or are a fan of?
Interstellar is the first one. Everybody around just knows that one in the astrophysics area. But that one is definitely like my favorite one that I've seen. I've seen Contact. I've seen Arrival. I've seen, would you consider like War of the Worlds sci-fi?
The new one?
No, I have not seen the new one.
I think so. It's like early sci-fi, especially because it was based on the H.G. Wells book.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I've seen that. And then I think like the most influential one overall was Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos, which is like kind of like very not sci-fi.
Yeah,
it's like there's a sci-fi setting based in pure like real physics.
Awesome.
So it's very not sci-fi-y.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm not sure how sci-fi that is, but that's good.
Yeah, Interstellar is the one that really comes up to
Awesome.
my brain most. Yeah. What is your favorite sci-fi movie?
Oh,
you have one.
Interstellar's awesome. Arrival's great. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I recognize the movies are not all that great, but that's okay. They're fun. They don't need to be incredible. I also really like, on the more horror end, Annihilation. I really love. And then I think it's Jordan Peele. He made Nope, and that one is really cool too.
Annihilation is one that I have on my watch list. I really want to see that, and I haven't even heard about Jordan Peele's Nope.
Yeah, it's like Jaws, but for an alien.
Interesting. Huh, okay. So let's talk about Star Wars a little bit. You've mentioned before to me that Star Wars has been pretty important for you. So how did Star Wars lead you to science, even though you weren't into space as a kid?
Yeah, and that's kind of the funny thing is talking to a bunch of people in astrophysics or aerospace, really. Everyone usually says that they were really into space and science as a kid. I thought it was cool, but like I was more into Star Wars and like the ships and stuff versus like actual planetary science and like physics and stuff. I think I've always been a big fan of myths, and Star Wars is, George Lucas specifically echoed myths in making those. And so it's funny because now I operate spacecraft, and it's an interesting route from someone who maybe didn't really care much about physics, but was interested in the ships of that scene.
Yeah, I never knew that space is what I was going to want to do. I never really knew what I was going to do until I just threw all my eggs in the space basket when I was 23 years old. And when I hear all the people around me that are like, oh yeah, like my dad was a NASA worker, so I always knew that I would be. I never knew. And it was actually like Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos and other movies like Interstellar that was really my first intro to space, because I never knew anybody in my personal life that was into space.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I don't know about you, but growing up, I was an art kid, and I would write and I would do art. And so now whenever I run into like a parent of a kid I went to elementary school with, they're always like, oh, so you definitely were an art major, right? And I was like, far from it. About as far as you can get. And it's so funny because like, I wouldn't say that Star Wars directly put me here, but I think the interest in that kind of space environment and the fantasy of having spaceships fly around subconsciously put me on this road. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, let's talk about how that switch from like the sci-fi to actual scientists works. And we can see that in the movies, like where we have some movies that are a lot more on the fi and some movies that are more on the sci. And the first one that I wanted to talk about, which I have seen, it's been a long time, but was The Martian. That one's like considered a semi-realistic sci-fi movie. It's mostly about survival and engineering. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, big fan of The Martian. I've read the book recently. I've watched the movie a bunch. It's one of those where I love the movie and I almost think it's better than the book. Hot take. But it's funny because the only thing in that movie that I can think of that is like actively incorrect about the science is the dust storm that keeps Mark Watney on Mars. In reality, the dust storms are like a light breeze compared to Earth. So he definitely wouldn't have been blown around and had a antenna puncture his suit and body. But that movie, I think, is great for showing actual engineering and planetary physics kind of applied. Like in the movie, they have a bunch of NASA associates and, you know, people that work at NASA. And a lot of the scenes, I'll be like, I've done that, or like I've done stuff similar to that. And like one of the characters is a flight controller. I work for flight controllers. I'm hoping to be a flight controller. And so that movie, I think, is a great example of pretty close to real science. Though maybe it's another good point. I don't think we want to go to Mars, at least for a long time. It's not a great place to live. We would have to terraform it a lot, and even then the radiation would kind of fry us. So unless you want to live in a bunker under the surface, it's probably not great. I like seeing the sky, so I personally wouldn't want to live in a bunker.
Agreed. One of the coolest like moments that I ever had was when I was thinking about like my favorite planets and stuff, and I was always like, oh, Saturn because it has a ring, or oh, Jupiter because it's big and it's got really cool patterns on it, or Mars because aliens. Then I just like had this moment during my degree where I was like, no, Earth is where it's at. Like no other planet in our solar system has such diversity. No other planet in our solar system even has biodiversity or to our knowledge right now. And you can almost simulate many different types of planets just on Earth alone, but you wouldn't be able to do that so well on other planets.
And not to get all hippie, but like I also always kind of thought like, Earth's kind of the boring one. Like we know about Earth, whatever. But like it is a heaven in the midst of a hostile universe. And if humanity wants to continue, we should take care of this place. We're not going to find another planet anywhere near as nice as Earth, anywhere near us, and probably nowhere in time near us too. It'll take us forever to get out of our solar system alone. Yeah. Let alone out of the galaxy if we try to do that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, not not to be all hippie, but like Earth's pretty cool.
It is really cool. It's a lot easier to fix what we've got going on here rather than go to a planet that already has like a destroyed atmosphere and try to rebuild that.
Yeah. If we want to terraform Mars, we can, but it would be easier to terraform Earth. Or reverse terraform.
Yeah.
So Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, actually has another book that has a movie coming out soon called Project Hail Mary.
Oh, yeah.
With Ryan Gosling. That book was also really cool. Definitely more sci-fi than The Martian, considering, and maybe slight spoilers if you haven't seen the trailer, but there's an alien. And the guy encounters an alien. Whoa. And so, like, that story is really fun. It deals a lot with orbital mechanics, but, like, on an easy scale. And then also, like, life sciences, what it takes to make life, what other body plans would be possible or feasible. And it also, ironically, deals a lot with linguistics, which, of course, we have another movie on our list that dealt with linguistics. Arrival, which you mentioned earlier. That's obviously very sci-fi, but like the linguistic science is something that we would have to think about with aliens and encounters.
Yeah, I think that movie is beautiful. Like I tend to really like realism in art and in movies, and that one was just so like the anxiety that the main character feels as she's approaching aliens for the first time. And I'm trying not to give too many spoilers, but I'm trying to also have a conversation about why it's good. So
well, and I think I think if you know anything about the movie, she's talking to aliens.
Aliens have arrived. That's why it's called Arrival.
Yeah. Whoa. Spoiler.
Spoiler. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot about linguistics, but it's also equally about how it would actually be for a average person to do that.
And a cool thing with that, like, humanity has already started doing some linguistics work to try to communicate with aliens. Of course, the Voyager spacecraft we sent with the golden record of sounds from Earth, and then also a panel with human body plans, careful of the nudity if you look it up, and then also like I think it has molecular diagrams and then a diagram of where Earth is in the solar system. I think a few other things on there.
Yeah, there's like a diagram of a hydrogen atom, and that shows you how to read everything. So if there was a sentient being to find this, they'd be like, okay, this is a hydrogen atom. Now we know what yes and no means. We know that there's positives and negatives.
Yeah.
And then there's that map, and it shows the nearest stars in the galaxy to Earth, and it points you right to Earth. And then there's two records, right? There's one with the humans, and then there's the other one with all of the hydrogen stuff. And the one with the hydrogen stuff tells you how to play this record, and on that record you could hear sounds and music and noises and many of the major languages on Earth. And so there's real things that we have done with linguistics to try to communicate with another being that has no relation to Earth. And so Arrival definitely like crosses into the real sci-fi area.
We also have, on the opposite end of communication, science has also gotten maybe signals from something else. Do you know about the WOW signal?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I don't know much about it, but I was actually just seeing a post about it that circled it. And I read a paper recently that was saying that the WOW signal that was detected originally, was that the 70s or the 80s?
Somewhere around. I don't know exactly.
Whenever it was originally detected, the signal is actually likely much stronger than that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really interesting because as far as I'm aware, and granted, I don't know a whole lot about it, but as far as I'm aware, it's still not known what caused that, and it's not known if something natural could have caused that. So who knows? I'm pretty sure it's a radio signal that back when signals were fed out on strips of paper, It displayed a signal that was abnormal, and so abnormal to the point where they had no idea what could have caused that. And still to this day, I don't believe scientists have an answer to what caused the wow signal. But basically, it's a bunch of numbers on a code printout, and the scientist that was receiving it circled those numbers and wrote wow. So that's why it's called the wow signal.
So we can get like really anomalous signals, and it happens a lot in science where like, just imagine that you're trying to take a picture through a telescope and somebody bumped into that telescope. It becomes blurry. Yeah, you can get stuff like that. You can get like maybe you're trying to detect some noise and a car drives by wherever you're doing your experiment.
Yeah.
And so that happens.
Yeah.
But this is different. This is
Yeah.
like, we've thought about all of those.
Yeah.
We've thought about all the things that humans could have done. We've spent decades thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yet nobody still knows what's come of it.
And like on the counter, like we have gotten regular signals from things, and for a while I think that was also thought to be aliens, but that turns out to be stars. Those are pulsars. They are very, very, very regular, but this is like a one-time message or pulse or whatever. It's very crazy. And this also kind of leads me to another sci-fi book / piece of media, The Three-Body Problem. And that one asks, do we really want to be talking to aliens and the consequences for everything if we do? But after reading that, I'm not so sure that we should be reaching out to space at all. I don't know. Did you ever read that?
I watched the show.
Okay.
I never read it.
Okay.
But yeah, I watched the show really briefly because everybody was talking about it and it sounded really interesting to me. So my wife and I like watched it over like a night or two. And it's
honestly, it does a pretty good job adapting things. The weirdest part of it is that all the characters know each other and they're all very Western washed. In the book, it's all Chinese characters, and it's like kind of a collection of like random people. Like they're not college friends like they are in the show, which that was my big issue with the show. I was just like, that's kind of strange, but
yeah. I think that in my experience with what I saw them doing, like how they represented what it's like to work was pretty accurate, with some like a lot of drama added to it, but like what it looks like to do science and to do astronomy looked pretty accurate to me.
Especially the massive radar dishes that they use to receive signals. Those are very common. I think mostly for radio. I don't think there's any. I
think like in radar, radio is like one of the R's. That actually reminds me of another like pretty recent sci-fi film, Don't Look Up. And I did see that one recently too, and I actually really liked that one.
That one, that was an interesting movie. So I say interesting because like when it came out, it got a lot of heat. And it seemed like people were not a fan of it. I watched it and I thought, oh, this is how people would behave.
100%.
So I agree. I thought it was really good. Yeah, a little bleak, but like, but I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know what people had as a problem with it, but, and that, I believe, if I remember correctly, the like threat in that movie is an asteroid.
Yes.
There's several missions coming up that are specifically designed to defend Earth from incoming asteroids. Like, and of course, I don't know that we know of any big ones that are like threatening right now. There might be one, but like it's just the missions are on the off chance that does happen. And so even that movie is, has some real life roots.
Yeah, we have like a whole category of like near Earth objects that like they have some crazy orbits throughout our solar system, and we label a set of them as near Earth objects if they come within a certain distance from us, and they have a certain percentage likelihood of colliding with Earth. And and they're all different sizes. For reference, I think the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs was 10 kilometers. So this is a genuine fear and a genuine source of defense that we need to have on Earth. We've actually already started projects with this. Was it the DART mission? Yeah, the DART mission was a rocket that we sent out to collide with a small asteroid, and we bumped it and we changed its path a little bit. We made it move in a different direction a little tiny bit. And so that was our very first step. But to actually get a asteroid that's coming towards Earth and will collide with Earth, and if it's large, it's going to take a lot more energy than just one little rocket.
But it is interesting. The DART mission, it moved the asteroid a lot more than they expected to.
Oh.
So it was a lot more successful than initially thought. But also, yes, you're right. And another interesting thing is most asteroids are kind of just dust balls. And so you think how hard it'll be to swat away a cloud of dust. it's hard to actually affect something so porous.
Yeah. And asteroids come in all different shapes and densities, and so they're hard to detect too, because they don't shine like a star. And even planets, you can detect infrared from planets. It's really hard to detect asteroids, and so they're just hard to find. So definitely a good thing for us to be doing. So Don't Look Up is, I think, one of the most realistic ones that I have ever seen, because again, like you said, I completely agree. I think that the world would react very similar to that. I'm not saying the end result is that we die, but I think all of the controversy that's happening, just relating that to the controversy that's happening right now with politics, felt very realistic.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that movie is more of a political study than a scientific one. But that being said, accurate on both fronts.
yes. Yeah, it was very soft on the sci-fi and more on the drama. And it was a good one. So we've kind of inched around Interstellar a bit. Do you want to jump into that one?
Sure. Yeah, the big kahuna, if you will. Yeah, Interstellar's an awesome case because I believe it was Kip Thorne that worked on it.
Yeah.
And the anecdotes and stories I've heard from that is that he presented the VFX teams with the math that would describe how a black hole would appear. He didn't really conceptualize how that would depict a black hole. And so when they kind of dropped those equations into their shaders or whatever advanced VFX techniques they were using, and it dropped out the image of the black hole with the halo getting bent up over and under it. Apparently he looked at it and was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That would look like that. So yeah, it's fascinating how, and if I remember correctly, he then published papers based on the images from the VFX.
I think he has a book about it.
Yeah. It's such awesome science. Yeah. So Interstellar, obviously the whole going into a black hole and a multi-dimensional library in there, that might not be real. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't think we can know, but I'm hazard a guess it's not very real.
Yeah.
But the black hole physics, very, very real to the point where papers were published about it. And also all the crop science, as far as I'm aware, that's realistic too.
Yeah. So Interstellar is a movie about a engineer who is not working as a scientist or as an engineer anymore because there's this giant climate crisis happening. Everybody around is getting swarmed by dust, so the economy completely relies on agriculture and farmers. And this engineer, he was a scientist and an engineer before the climate crisis in the movie began. And he gets tasked by the government to go search for a new habitable world. And in doing so, he has to pass through a black hole, a very large black hole. And we get to see some very realistic scientific principles that have been created by Einstein's theory of relativity, such as time dilation. So like time near a really massive object, or any massive object for that matter, will look slower from an outside perspective. And that's a real thing that is described in Einstein's theory of relativity. And I think that's like why Interstellar is such a provoking movie and why it's the big kahuna.
Yeah.
Because it used all of the cool effects. It used all of our modern understandings of relativity. And they like really just works with a lot of scientists.
Yeah. Interstellar, I think, is a great example of like taking modern physics and like hard physics. To that, I mean like very accurate or like realistic physics and applying it to a fantasy setting. Like that movie's all about connection and love and how that spans the universe. But in doing so, it's using theories that Einstein first came up with in the early 1900s. Like it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's using like the most modern understanding that we have of space, and the things that we aren't confident about with science, the part where we get more into the fiction in that movie, such as traveling through a black hole, like these are still very like realistic ideas for us to think about.
Mm-hmm.
They are the things that we're questioning, like what would it be like if you entered a black hole?
Yeah.
How does math and physics work inside of a black hole? And there's a lot of really smart people that have done a lot of work to answer that question. So yeah, like the movie is actually a really beautiful depiction of what could possibly be the answer for that.
So something I just thought about while you were talking about like how even traveling through a wormhole is something that scientists are actually thinking about. A lot of, or maybe not a lot, but there are faster than light or attempts to get close to that methods of travel, such as the Alcubierre drive. It distorts space around the engine, quote unquote, so that it's essentially surfing on space. Like it pulls up space behind it, pulls down space in front of it, up and down, being in quotes, talking about space-time, so that the ship is just being pushed along by space. It's a really cool concept. And while not directly referenced in Interstellar, a lot of those relativistic principles are at play in that drive and worth looking up and exploring. There's a lot out there of really interesting applications of exotic physics that, while not proven and while not necessarily able to be proven yet, are really interesting to toy around with.
Absolutely. And that's just how science works. We start with ideas. We start with
with sci-fi.
Yeah, we start with sci-fi.
And then we get to actual stuff.
Yes. I think it's really cool because these ideas are really fun to think about. Yeah. And someday maybe we will be able to create some type of simulation to prove that faster than light travel is actually possible.
Next up, lightsabers.
Heck yeah, lightsabers.
Let me have a lightsaber, man. Yeah, I can be trusted. Come on.
Yeah, let's talk about lightsabers. I've seen like a few of the Star Wars movies, so I don't even know what like a lightsaber is. That's really okay. Is it just a plasma sword?
Yeah. So I'm an embarrassingly large Star Wars fan, so I'm gonna go deep on lore.
Do it.
But basically, it's a plasma sword, but it's contained within a magnetic field. And so that's what then also in universe allows them to like hit each other and work as swords. So they're like then reflected magnetic fields.
Okay, so like you could just think of it as two giant magnets that kind of like repel each other a little bit.
It's basically like a magnet making a tube of a magnetic field and plasma within that tube. I don't know if you've seen the real, quote unquote, real lightsabers that are being made, but like there's some
sweet.
legit lightsabers in progress.
Actually using real plasma too.
Yeah. Shout out Hacksmith.
Yeah.
I think as far as I understand it, the current limitation is powering it. Mm-hmm. You need a lot of like power to generate. Yeah, and you need a direct fuel supply.
Yeah.
But and the thing that we haven't cracked yet is how to actually duel with them, because those are just jets of plasma. Like you can't actually smack people with it.
It's really hard to like build a definitive end to a sword of plasma in real life.
And that's the big difficulty with them being lasers. Like lightsabers can't be lasers because lasers will travel indefinitely until stopped. Mm-hmm. So like that's why you can also have a laser pointer and shoot it up, point it at stars and stuff, because it's just getting stopped by the atmosphere. Whereas lightsabers, they're what, like 3 meters or 3 meters.
3 meters is big.
Yeah, they're like 1 meter or something. Yeah, what am I talking about? Big Star
3
Wars.
feet.
Big Star Wars, man. But yeah, no, lightsabers are awesome. We're almost there. Give us time. We just need to crack magnetic fields and like manipulating them so that then we can duel.
That reminds me of the meme about CERN and Large Hadron Colliders.
Trust me, bro.
We just need a bigger one.
Just one more collider.
Well, we're gonna make quantum physics and relativity work. I promise. We just need a bigger one.
Next one going out to the Oort cloud. Trust me, bro. We just need one more.
Okay, yeah, let's get back to the stuff that we're talking about. So we talked about lightsabers as an idea of something that's like actually becoming a real thing. We already had from Star Trek the telecommunicators, or is that what they called them? They called them communicators or something. I don't know.
Basically cell phones.
Yeah. And so we've got cell phones after it was already an idea in sci-fi. And that's not to say that everything that's in sci-fi is going to become a real thing. But a lot of our inventions are often sparked by the ideas of sci-fi, I believe. And so other examples of that could be like warp drives in Star Wars.
Yeah. And of course, Star Wars, like, oh my God, in universe again, they're like, well, we're traveling faster than the speed of light, but not actually, because we're going into a different dimension. So like they kind of get away with fake science, but whatever. But yeah, like as I was mentioning earlier, the Alcubierre drive is a theoretical invention. The math checks out, but we kind of I believe we need antimatter to fuel it, which it's kind of hard to get.
The single most expensive thing in the universe.
It's often out of stock.
Cool. And then, let's get into why sci-fi matters at all. Like, if you were to argue to somebody that doesn't like sci-fi at all and is like, it's worthless, what would you say to them to say that, like, science fiction movies and stories are actually worth watching?
They have value.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tricky because, of course, everyone has their own taste in media. And so ultimately, someone could just not like sci-fi because it's not their cup of tea. I think that as we were getting at, though, sci-fi has an incredible power to predict the future. Whether, obviously, it's not actually predicting the future, but it is creative people being creative and thinking, you know what, this idea is not super realistic now, but it could have some basis and it could it could happen. Maybe not now, but far in the future. And sci-fi's been around for a long time. I think H.G. Wells was one of the first sci-fi writers, and there's so much in H.G. Wells's books that has come to fruition. I want to say airplanes weren't even a thing when he first wrote about them. I might be wrong on that, but I think there's so much evidence, as we were talking about, of sci-fi concepts that have made it into reality. And whether or not you want to treat sci-fi shows and movies as a future forecast, that's up to you. I think they're just fun. And ultimately, it is just entertainment. And I kind of think it's just that. It's not that deep. I think it is just like, it's fun.
Yeah, the couple science fiction movies that I have watched, I've liked them because, again, I like realism, and I like being shown like a reflection of the world that I live in with a touch of something else, a touch of fantasy or a touch of fiction. And I think that the sci-fi movies that I have watched, such as Interstellar, are really valuable to that. And I think that when Black Mirror came out, that was like a very popular reaction to it, is that, whoa, this is realistic. This is like very probable.
Yeah.
And so we kind of see it like mirroring society in some ways. It mirrors our fears, it mirrors our hopes, our dreams, the things that make us human.
Yeah.
And then we end up actually, like you said, bringing some of that to fruition, such as AI.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something really important. Media and stories in general, I think, are designed to highlight factors of the human condition that are worth exploring, whether there's sci-fi elements or not. You can get into really important stories with realism. You can get into it with fantasy. You know, Lord of the Rings is not sci-fi, but it has emotional impact for people just as much as Interstellar does. I think a story that is good will affect you emotionally, and whether that's sci-fi or not, I don't think that matters.
Another thing that I think we touched on a little bit at the beginning is how like sci-fi gives you that spark that actually makes you want to get into the real thing in real life. And so I think that another way that sci-fi can be valuable as a teaching tool. And at the planetarium, I use a lot of analogies from movies that I haven't seen. But I know the concept of the thing that's happening. I've seen that scene in a clip somewhere, or just because I saw somebody else watching it, and I'm able to like use that. But often I use Interstellar because that's the one that I have seen. So like if people have seen Interstellar and I'm talking one-on-one with them, I'm able to use those analogies.
Yeah.
And so sci-fi is a really good tool for that, because we often like don't have other resources to communicate such things. And it's taken me years to like understand these things, and anybody that doesn't have years dedicated in their life to understand them, it's hard.
That's a good point. I have been in school for space school for 5-6 years. So yeah, I guess there are some crazy concepts.
Yeah, I think we would be doing harm if we didn't mention a couple of like the main sci-fi movies, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I haven't seen, but I need to.
It's okay. It's okay. 2001, and this is maybe a hot take, but it is older, and some things haven't aged well. Some things have aged very well, and I think it's worth watching, but there are some things that are a little silly, I thought.
Yeah. And then another classic is Contact.
Yes.
That is one that I have seen. Really liked it. Spooked me out a bit because I'm a very existential person. So the ending spooked me quite a bit. But Contact is again about first contact with aliens and humans dealing with that. I don't know. Yeah, these aliens are like not as hostile as some aliens in other movies, though. Maybe I'm giving too much of a spoiler, but
they're beyond us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, Sunshine. I haven't actually seen Sunshine, but it's one of those that like I know is good. I just haven't gotten to it. But it kind of deals with cosmic horror about the sun. I believe they get obsessed with the sun.
Oh, that sounds
and start
cool.
worshiping the sun.
Oh, I haven't even heard of Sunshine, so I got to check that out. Ex Machina is one that's like less space related and more about like AI. And that one's an amazing one. And let's see, what else do we got here? Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer.
That's one of my favorite movies.
We did not talk about Snowpiercer at all, but Snowpiercer is definitely worth checking out. It is a concept that I believe it started as a novel, honestly, or maybe it was a short story. But basically, it's in the future, after a climate disaster, every human gets gathered onto a train that circumnavigates the globe, and the entire world is a snowy wasteland, and nothing can survive outside. And it gets into the social dynamics of that train.
It's really cool. Like a class warfare.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Chris Evans' Captain America, check it out.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. Again, it is sci-fi, I would say, but like it's more on like politics and drama and human experience. Yeah. Again, great one. Avatar, the blue people, not the last airbender, or not, I guess they're not people, the blue aliens, not the
Na'vi.
Yeah, the Na'vi. That one is one that's like really controversial.
Yeah.
But I think it is pretty foundational in the imagery that it created, and like just being able to like actually imagine other worlds like that was really immersive for a lot of the people that saw it.
And for the kids out there, if any kids listen to this, WALL-E
is it's literally top 5 favorite movies of all time for me.
WALL-E is awesome.
Yeah, very very sci-fi. Very family friendly, but also very political and very human. Yeah. Despite the main character being a robot.
Robots,
top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Cool.
Yeah. So what's your top 3 go-to for a newbie? For a newbie, like what's your playlist that you'd send to somebody who's new to sci-fi?
I feel like Interstellar is a classic. I feel like that is an easy one that explores pretty good hard science concepts that makes it relatively easy to grasp. I think The Martian is pretty fun. It's got good music, it's got good actors, it's a fun one. And for my third choice, I might go with Annihilation.
Nice.
Because it's a personal favorite.
All right.
It's not necessarily space related and not really super accurate, but it has some wild concepts and is really thematically well put together.
Great. Yeah, I think my playlist, off of the very few sci-fis that I have seen, I'd try to give like a diverse array, I think. So I'd go Interstellar for sure, for just getting to experience like scientific accuracy plus a little bit more than what we know. And then I'd say WALL-E is just wholesome. It's sad, but it's good, and it's hopeful, and it's beautiful. And then I think I'd try to pick something like super creative. And like obviously the first thing that comes to my mind is Star Wars, despite the fact that I haven't seen much of it. But
Wonderful.
I feel like the Star Wars movies I have seen have been some of the most creative films I've ever seen in my life.
And honestly, for Star Wars, obviously episode 4 is where it all starts. So definitely worth checking it out. If you want some peak story, and especially politically related story, I would check out Andor.
Nice.
Andor is incredible.
Nice. All right. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say to the audience?
I don't think so. If you want to make fun of me and yell at me, I guess find me on Instagram. It's just sam.lippincott. Don't send me too much hate.
Those are dangerous waters you're treading on. Just kidding. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So for our listeners, thank you for joining us on another episode. Please stay tuned for our next episode coming out soon. Our editors are Javid Alimuradov and Bella Schulte. This episode was written by myself and Sam, our guest, and you can find more from us on our social media pages. Just search Open Orbit Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Bye.